Imagine, if you will, a quiet summer night in 1912 in the small, seemingly peaceful town of Villisca, Iowa. But this night would be anything but peaceful. It would become the scene of one of America's most haunting unsolved mysteries, the Villisca Axe Murders. On the evening of June 9th, the Moore family, Josiah Moore, 43, Sarah Moore, 39, Herman Moore, 11, Catherine Moore, 10, Boyd Moore, 7, Paul Moore, 5, Lena Stillinger, 12, Ina Stillinger, 8, had enjoyed a Children's Day program at the local Presbyterian church, an event organized by their very own mother, Sarah. With them were two young guests, sisters Ina May and Lena Gertrude Stillinger, spending the night at the Moore home. They all returned to the house between 9:45 and 10 p.m., settling in for what they expected to be a restful night's sleep. But morning never came for them. On the morning of June 10th, a neighbor, Mary Peckham, grew concerned when the Moore family didn't emerge for their usual morning chores. She called Josiah's brother, Ross Moore, who, upon finding the house locked, used his own key to enter. The horror he discovered inside would forever scar the town of Villisca. In the guest room, Ross found the bodies of the Stillinger sisters. He immediately alerted Henry Hank Horton, the town's peace officer. A deeper search of the home revealed the unthinkable. All 8 souls had been brutally bludgeoned to death. The scene was chilling. All 8 victims, from young Paul Moore, just 5 years old, to Josiah and Sarah, had suffered severe head wounds from an axe. The murder weapon itself, Josiah's own axe, was found right there in the guest room. Investigators estimated the murders occurred somewhere between the times of midnight and 5 a.m. Eerily, 2 spent cigarettes were discovered in the attic, suggesting the killer, or killers, had waited there, patiently, until the family was sound asleep. The attack was systematic and horrifying. It began in the master bedroom, where Josiah and Sarah Moore were struck down, Josiah receiving the most blows. The assailant then moved to the children's rooms, bludgeoning the 4 more children in their beds. Following his unspeakable act, the killer returned to inflict more blows on the elder Moores, before moving downstairs to complete their horrifying task by killing Ina and Lena Stillinger. While most victims were believed to be asleep, Lena Stillinger was found with defensive wounds, her body positioned in such a way that led to speculation of an attempted assault, though later investigations found no definitive evidence for this. Adding to the bizarre nature of the crime, every single mirror in the house had been carefully covered with blankets or clothes. A gas lamp was found with its chimney removed and wick turned down, and a fragment of a keychain not belonging to the family was also discovered on the scene. An imprint in the hay in the barn even suggested the killers may have been observing the family before the attack. What followed was a catastrophic mishandling of the crime scene. After an all-call alert, townsfolk rushed into the house, contaminating crucial evidence. The sheriff struggled to control the chaos for hours, and some individuals even stole pieces of Josiah's skull as grim souvenirs. The murder weapon itself was handled by hundreds of people. The county coroner, Dr. Linguist, arrived around 9 a.m. and was understandably upset by the widespread interference. He urged the sheriff to call in the National Guard to secure the perimeter, which was finally established by 10:30 a.m. The bodies, however, were not removed until after 10 p.m., nearly 24 hours after the murders, and were transported to the fire station, which served as a temporary morgue. The investigation that followed was lengthy and complex, yielding several suspects. These included Reverend George Kelly, William Mansfield, Frank F. Jones, Henry Lee Moore, Samuel R. Moyer, and Paul Mueller. As the shock of the murders settled over Villisca, the suspects were looked into further. Reverend George Kelly, a traveling preacher, was in Villisca the night of the murders. Eccentric and mentally unstable, Kelly had a disturbing history, including voyeuristic behavior and inappropriate advances toward young women. He had attended the very church service that the Moore family went to just hours before their deaths. After the murders, he wrote strange, unsolicited letters to the authorities and to the victims' families, claiming to have knowledge of the crime. In 1917, he confessed under intense interrogation, but later recanted. Tried twice, he was ultimately acquitted. Then there was Frank F. Jones, a prominent state senator and Josiah Moore's former employer. Josiah had left Jones's hardware business to start his own, reportedly taking a valuable John Deere contract with him. Rumors circulated that Jones may have hired a killer out of revenge, but no concrete evidence ever linked him to the crimes. One such possible hired killer was William Blackie Mansfield, an ex-convict and suspected serial murderer. Similar axe killings occurred before and after the Villisca murders in Colorado Springs, Kansas, and Illinois. In many of these cases, the killer covered mirrors, used an axe, and left dim lamps burning, just as in Villisca. A private detective, James Wilkerson, believed Mansfield was responsible for these crimes, and that he had been paid by Jones to do them. However, Mansfield was released after payroll records confirmed he was working in Illinois at the time. He was later sued by Mansfield and won. Another transient, Andrew Sawyer, was briefly considered a suspect. He had an unusual obsession with the murders and was reportedly found sleeping with an axe beside him, but he was never formally charged. Henry Lee Moore, unrelated to the Villisca victims, was convicted of murdering his own mother and grandmother with an axe just months after the Villisca slayings. The brutal similarities led some to suspect he could be connected. Sam Moyer, Josiah's brother-in-law, was also questioned after reportedly making past threats against Josiah. However, his alibi held up under scrutiny. And finally, in recent years, authors Bill and Rachel James identified Paul Mueller, a German immigrant and fugitive, as a likely suspect. In their book, The Man from the Train, they linked Villisca to a series of eerie similar axe murders across the country, targeting entire families, always at night, near railways, with little evidence left behind. Their research suggests the Villisca murders may have been part of a broader pattern committed by a single methodical serial killer who was never caught. Despite the compelling theories and wide net of suspicion, no one was ever convicted. The identity of the killer remains unknown, buried beneath layers of time, rumor, and blood, leaving the town with a haunting legacy. The house itself has since been restored and is now known as the Villisca Axe Murder House, drawing tourists and paranormal enthusiasts, many whom believe the spirits of the Moore family and the Stillinger sisters still linger within its walls. The mystery of that terrifying night in Villisca continues to captivate and disturb, a chilling reminder of a crime that slipped through the grasps of justice.